We're going to give folks just a second to hop on before getting started. While you're waiting, just some housekeeping. Welcome to our session, which is Co-Housing Solutions in Domestic Violence Sheltering. We're thrilled that you could join us this afternoon. I know there's stiff competition with lots of great sessions. Um, we are in a Zoom call, which means that you have the option to turn your camera on. We do ask that you keep your camera off just so that we know who is presenting, even though we'd love to see you. But that way we know who is presenting and who is part of the panel. And just some housekeeping about Whova. If you have questions or comments that you would like to share as part of this discussion and presentation, please do that in the Whova platform. I will be keeping an eye on that for any questions that come in. And with that, I think I'll roll right into introducing our session and our presenters. So my name is Zoe. I use she, her pronouns. I'm the Director of Engagement and Program Development with BestyBnB, which is an online platform that partners with social service agencies and animal welfare organizations to provide temporary placements for their clients' pets until they can be reunited. And I'm your moderator today. I'm also the co-chair of the Equitable Access for Veterinary Care working group through the Co-Sheltering Collaborative. So I'm happy to be here with our presenters today. And I'm just going to do a brief introduction of each of them and share their bios. You can get to know them a little bit more, and then we will roll into their presentations. So joining us is Jaki MacKinnon. Jaki MacKinnon spent 20 years as the executive director at Bethesda House, a women's shelter. Jaki and her team strive to reduce as many barriers as possible to women's accessing services. In 2013, they tackled one of the biggest barriers of all, women's pets not being able to access the shelter with them. They became the first domestic violence shelter in the province of Ontario, Canada, to co-shelter women and their pets together in women's rooms. We also will have Pena, who is the communications coordinator for the Animal Welfare Institute's Safe Havens and for Pets program. She is a graduate of the George Washington University with a degree in political communication. Val has developed the organization's unique national directory of services for individuals facing housing insecurity with pets. Additionally, Val provides direct support to survivors with pets and oversees ongoing maintenance for the Safe Havens for Pets directory, which connects individuals experiencing domestic violence to pet-friendly resources. She also manages the program's social media platform and leads communication campaigns aimed at raising awareness and engaging communities to support these vital efforts. And last but not least, we also have Orazie Cook, who is the founder of Praline's Backyard Foundation. Orazie is dedicated to helping survivors find housing for their pets, ensuring no survivor has to choose between safety and a beloved animal. With a background in animal welfare and advocacy, Orazie works at the intersection of holistic support to survivors and animals, creating meaningful, impactful partnerships to provide safe spaces for both humans and pets in need. So with that, I will hand things over to Jaki, who's going to kick off our presentations.
Well, I was about to, and then I lost my PowerPoint. So I am going to call it up again. I'm sorry for the delay. Okay. Are you able to see that?
We are not. Would you like to share your screen?
Hang on. Can you see it now?
I'm not able to see it. I'm not sure if other folks. Oh, there we go.
Okay,
Great.
so, and you probably can see the extra slides down the side. I'm not going to try to mess around with that right now because that's how I lost it to begin with.
Sure.
Okay, so hello everyone. I am very excited to be here to share with you our Bethesda House journey to co-housing women and their pets together in women's rooms in the shelter. When I started with Bethesda House in 2003, we were like every other shelter in Canada in that we did not bring animals into shelter with their women. That was simply the way it was. But it didn't sit right with me. I knew about the human-animal bond, and I knew that making women leave their pets behind when leaving abuse was increasing their trauma, not relieving it. So we began sneaking animals into shelter with their women and learning through trial and error how to make it work. In 2013, we decided to tackle the issue head on, becoming the first domestic violence shelter in Ontario, maybe Canada, to officially advertise that we shelter women and their pets together in-house. And I'd like to share the steps in our journey with you. Okay, so I'm going to first tell you a little bit about Bethesda House to help you understand the type of setting that we are bringing animals into. It's located on Highway 401 in Southern Ontario. The 401 is a hotbed of human trafficking across Canada. And in addition, our region has one of the highest rates of domestic violence in our province. The building itself is just a normal old red brick house with a big front porch in a mixed residential commercial area. We are small. We only have 8 bedrooms in total. Although we are only funded for 18 residents, we can reconfigure the single bed and double bunk beds to go up to 24 women and children as needed, and we are often running over. When you add shelter counselors, a child and youth worker, a transitional support and housing worker into the mix, you can understand how we'd be very busy in such a small setting. We believe if we can successfully add companion animals to the mix, to this specific mix, anyone who is willing to put in the work can co-shelter women and their pets together as well. So the common thought back in 2003 was that you just couldn't have pets in shelter. And everywhere we turned, people said we were crazy and what were we thinking? When I started looking at external regulations, that rule wasn't written down anywhere. It was a moot point. Animals weren't even mentioned. Most of the concerns we heard were brought up by people who had never sat down with others and actually tried to figure out how the barrier could be overcome. These what-if concerns are what hold back worried shelters from starting the journey to cohabitation for women and their pets. In real life, the steps that I've got portrayed here didn't happen in a clearly consecutive manner like they're presented. Starting when we began sneaking pets in shelter, we would document what worked, what didn't work, and we afterwards look back and identified these steps. I'm not going to go through them all today due to time limitations, but I'm going to focus on the 3 really critical ones that are highlighted in yellow. First of all, if it's important enough to do, it's important enough to do right. We started at a real basic point. We identified the principles to guide our pet program decisions. Principles are defined as fundamental truths, beliefs, or rules that serve as a foundation for a system of behavior or reasoning, guiding actions, and decisions. By defining our guiding principles, what we believe, we have a goalpost to guide any future decisions we made in the development and implementation of our pet program. It really helped us in defining what we wanted our policies and procedures to be, for example. In terms of these principles, we focus on the following. Bethesda House respects women's autonomy, including their right to choose what their family looks like. Bethesda House believes helping strengthen women's resilience while they move forward from gender-based violence is a key to their success. We respect the rights of animals to be protected from harm at the hands of abusers, just simply because it's the right thing to do. We believe being with their women will help pets recover from the effects of living with abuse. And we believe in nurturing the human-animal bond, that by nurturing the human-animal bond, the mental, physical, and social health of both the women and their animals are strengthened. So these have been our guiding principles. The next key step was choosing the pet program model that best aligns with these principles. The pet program model that we chose was a no-brainer. To tell you the truth, there wasn't a lot of discussion back then about models per se, but we knew that we needed to stick with what we were doing through all our years of unofficially bringing pets into shelter with their women and having them share a room. We knew this model aligned with our principles, and we also had witnessed it over and over, how women's resilience grew with their animals by their side, not just in their vicinity, but actually in the women's bed at night and in their lap when talking with shelter counselors, etc. We also knew that it was time to really focus on getting what we were doing in a really clear policies and practices manual. We wanted to put our learnings in writing, and we knew from what we had learned so far from 2003 to 2013 that policies and procedures to be successful must have one, risk management focus, being proactive with responses to address potential challenges one could reasonably anticipate may arise, all the what ifs that we had been talking about. We knew that the policies had to consider the needs of not just the women we admit to shelter and our animals, but it also had to consider the needs of other clients and the staff around her in the shelter. We also knew that we had to take into consideration the women in our community who may not want to come into a shelter where animals are present. We also know from experience in shelter way back that we needed to operationalize our policies with due diligence. Policies must be kept current, reflecting new knowledge, learning from successes and missteps. And we had both successes and missteps. I'm not saying it's always going to be easy. Challenges will occur. Through dealing with challenges that occurred in the 2003 to 2013 period when we were sneaking pets into shelter with their women, we identified three actually keys, I guess, or key components to the continued success of our co-sheltering program. The first and foremost has got to be creative problem solving, thinking out of the box, focusing on what you can do instead of what people are saying you can't do. As Mason Castillo said in his presentation yesterday, where there is a will, there is a way. Our staff are supreme in being creative problem solvers now. We also know that we need to put as much effort into problem solving to make the animals stay in shelter a success as you would put into making a woman's human child's stay a success. And that's definitely in line with our guidelines that this is the woman's other species child. We have to have success be the goal for both of them. We also knew that we have to bring women and others into the problem-solving loop with us. For example, animal professionals in the community, frontline staff, and even other shelter residents with the woman's approval. So I'm not going to go into detail about the actual challenges that occurred. Bo Ebner spoke about a few of those challenge in an earlier presentation from their shelter experience, and we've had similar experiences, and maybe we can talk about them in the question and answer period in more detail if you're interested. We want to talk about what success looks like. We have a lot of examples of what success looks like from clients. And I'm not going to talk about them in detail because we've talked a lot today and yesterday about the benefits of women having their animals with them. We have a lot of testimonials that I could go through. And again, I can read some of those later if anybody is interested. I am going to talk a bit about it from the perspective of the shelter staff, because we always have questions about, well, what about the shelter staff? What about people who don't like animals? Well, our staff don't have to like animals to be respectful of the fact that they are good for the women and that the women need them with them in the program. But as it turned out, once we introduced the program on a really regular basis, any staff who had any questions about it, once they began to see over and over and over again the success they were having, they fell in love with it. And as we've hired new staff since, it has always been people who were animal lovers that were attracted to our staff advertisements because they wanted to work with women and their animals together. The one thing I do want to read is from my slide is that having her pet in her lap and stroking it while we talk seems to make it easier for the women to say hard things. That was shared by one staff in a staff meeting, and everybody else in the staff meeting agreed. So for statistical overview, I'm going to broad strokes here. Find mine. Since officially beginning to co-shelter women and their pets in 2003, no, in 2013 to 2025 minus 1 month, we have brought 219 women with pets into shelter with their women. Now, on the surface, I know that 219 women with pets doesn't sound like a lot compared to the thousands that the larger programs that you have going on in the States are doing. But in the meantime, 219 for our small shelters feels pretty good. We've also had 402 women with pets that we weren't able to bring into the shelter due to lack of bed space. That is an absolute crime in my books. We have provided just under 25 years of safety to animals entering the shelter with their owners. Actually, 24 years, 11 months, 2 weeks, and 3 days to the end of February 2025. That feels impressive to us. We are very happy about that.
And Jackie, thank you so much for sharing. I just want to give you a heads up that your time is coming to a close, but if you have any finishing words to share, then